Hi everybody and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I hope you're having a beautiful day because I want to read to you the most beautiful hadith. Or at least what many Muslim scholars call one of the most beautiful hadith. I personally call it one of the dumbest hadith, or one of the most ridiculous hadith. And this is not just something little, something petty, this is actually a very huge problem. Let me get right into it. According to numerous reports, Muhammad once said the following: Allah descends every night to the lowest heaven when 1/3 of the first part of the night is over and says, I am the Lord, I am the Lord. Who is there to supplicate me so that I answer him? Who is there to beg of me so that I grant him? Who is there to beg forgiveness from me so that I forgive him? He continues like this till the day breaks. I don't know why Allah is talking to himself here because obviously nobody can hear him. But there's so much in this hadith. I mean, I read this once, and I saw the first problem, and then I saw the second problem, and I saw the third problem, and this hadith just appeared completely ridiculous, very ludicrous. This hadith alone should make people not trust Muhammad, because it sounds very primitive and very ridiculous. But as I was reading further about this hadith and informing myself a little bit further to see what I have missed, I found how many Muslim scholars still call this hadith a beautiful hadith, because what they see when they read this hadith is that this hadith shows how merciful Allah is, how much He wants to help His creation and forgive them. But what I see when I look at this hadith is just a 7th century guy who had no idea how the world works. There are so many problems with this one. Number one, the hadith says that Allah descends to the lowest heaven. But where exactly is this lowest heaven? This is a very big topic that I've addressed many times before. Islam teaches that there are 7 heavens above us. They are solid. You cannot pass them. And the Quran teaches that the stars are lights and missiles that are in the lowest, in the nearest heaven. That's of course something that people would have thought in a 7th century desert. People back then didn't know about planetary systems, stars, what the sun is, what galaxies are, what the universe is. If they did know, they would have enlightened us, but we didn't know about all of these things until very recently. The second problem about this hadith is Allah obviously physically descends to a lowest heaven, which is physically there according to the Quran. But why does Allah do that? Why does Allah come closer to us at night? Why does He descend physically to the lowest heaven to communicate with us while we don't hear it, in order to give us forgiveness? Why does He do that? Allah is in no need to physically come closer to us. Of course, Muslim scholars have disagreed over the centuries on the nature of Allah. Traditionalists believe that He is far above the skies, and the Quran and the Hadith seemingly support that, while some others, they assert that Allah is everywhere at the same time. In either case, the hadith clearly says that He comes down to the lowest heaven. If He is far above the skies, why does He come down? He is omnipresent, omnipotent. He doesn't have to move. If He is everywhere at the same time or outside of His creation, then what is this hadith supposed to mean? Is this just supposed to be metaphorical? It can't be, which is why traditionalist scholars rule that out and think that that is a heretical thought. Because the lowest heaven is described as a physical object, as a place in the Quran and also in the Hadith. According to the Hadith, Muhammad traveled up and down through the heavens, physically on the back of a flying horse, donkey, mule, creature, whatever it is. According to the hadith, the angels also come down and go up. And devils try to sneak up to the heavens, but they are not allowed because the stars are used as missiles against them. But also, let's come to the third, in my opinion, biggest problem that I have with this hadith. Let's not forget and overlook the fact that the hadith explicitly says that He comes down to the lowest heaven every night, when 1/3 of the first part of the night is over. And the hadith also says that He stays there until the day breaks. Now, forget about the lowest heaven, the highest heaven, and all those heavens. We all know nowadays that there is no such thing as night and day in reality when you look at all of this from the outside. The Earth rotates around its own axis while orbiting the Sun. Due to the Earth's rotation, the Sun appears and disappears to us, depending on where we are, all the time. And that is how day and night happens. This begs the following question. If Allah comes down every night at a specific time and stays there until day breaks, what night and what daybreak are we talking about? Because it is always night somewhere and day somewhere else. The traditionalist Muslim scholars say we don't have an answer to this, we just have to accept this because this is what Muhammad said, and we know for certain that Muhammad did say this because we don't just have one or two or three sources for this, we have numerous sources from different people for this. According to Islamic standards, this has been agreed upon as authoritative and authentic. Muhammad definitely said this. If you want to doubt and dismiss this hadith, that would mean that you would have to dismiss and doubt every other hadith out there, because this one is clearly very reliable. In fact, if you want to trust the Quran and trust that it is a book from Allah, you also have to refer to the hadiths for that, because all we have of the Quran is a random text, a book from a time after Muhammad. What we learn about where this book came from, how it turned into the book that you are holding in your hands, is narrated in the hadiths. If you don't trust the hadiths, you can't trust the Quran. And if you don't trust the Quran, then why do you believe in Islam? And again, according to these numerous hadiths, Allah comes at night. That's a movie title, by the way, which is a terrible movie. Don't watch that movie. It comes at night. Allah comes at night. That sounds weird. According to the hadith, every night Allah comes down to the lowest heaven, stays there for a while, waits for you to pray to Him so that He can forgive you, and when the day breaks, He leaves. No matter how you try to interpret it, no matter how you try to reinterpret it, it doesn't make sense. If you try to say it is metaphorical, it doesn't make sense that the hadith literally describes Him as descending to the lowest heaven. If you're trying to say that Allah is there all the time, that's what this hadith is referring to, then why does it say He comes every night at a specific time of the night and stays there until daybreak? If this is meant to talk about Allah's omnipresence, that He is always there to listen to you, then why does it explicitly say He comes down at this time and leaves at that time? No excuse can get around this. The hadith describes something that simply doesn't happen because it can't happen, because it is illogical and it is incompatible with the true nature of our natural world. The true nature that people weren't aware of back then, and that Muhammad, an ignorant man in a desert, definitely wasn't aware of. I'm trying to make sense of this. I mean, the earth is spinning and orbiting the sun. Where does Allah come? Does Allah come close to the earth and move together with the earth around the sun? Is He just floating up there and dancing there all the time, just watching us from above? I mean, I get it. Muhammad was in the 7th century in the middle of the desert. It only makes sense if you are in the middle of the night, in the middle of the desert. Everything is quiet and strange and scary. You think jinns are roaming the desert and they could snatch away your children and your belongings. You have no idea what this ground is, what this world is that you are living in, that you are walking on. It only makes sense to think that this is a ground and there is a canopy above, as the Quran says. And when you go higher and higher and higher, Allah is up there. And nights can be very strange moments where you feel very deeply emotional. And what Muhammad thought is that at night Allah comes there and He's up there. You can't see Him, but He's talking to you. I don't know why He's talking, because you can't hear Him anyway. And you are supposed to ask Him for forgiveness at that time, and then He goes away. That's a very great way to keep your followers in check and to control them and to make them believe that they must ask for forgiveness at night, because that will attach them more to the religion that you are trying to preach to them. And that is what Muhammad was doing, while abusing it for his own power. Clearly, Muhammad had no idea what he was talking about. And really, if a Muslim wants to dismiss this hadith and discard it, then a Muslim's entire faith in Islam must start falling apart. I look at Muhammad quotes like these and people are really telling me, you just need to look into it again and you will believe in Islam. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, it's very important for me that you like this video. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. Most of my videos are not monetized, so you can watch them without ads. If you want to support me and what I'm doing, you can support me on Patreon or on apostateprophet.com. I appreciate your help very much. I'll be back very soon. Have a great day and stay away from Islam.